Evil SIL shattered 2 marriages. Not out of fury or betrayal, but out of jealousy that she was alone. Families have a texture. Ours used to feel like a quilt, mismatched but warm, stitched from holidays, old jokes, and the kind of trust you don't notice until it's gone. I was the middle child, 38 now. Mark, my older brother, is 2 years ahead of me, dependable in that older sibling way, the one who always carried the heavy grocery bags without being asked. Marianne, our younger sister by 3 years, was the free spirit. She dyed her hair pink before senior photos and wore the principal's disapproval like a trophy. We weren't perfect. We argued, we sulked, we rolled our eyes at each other. But we always knew where the lines were. And we always knew that if a stranger messed with one of us, the other 2 would show up, no questions asked, no explanations needed. When Mark met Dana, I didn't feel the lines shift at first. I just noticed how much he smiled when her name came up. We met her over Sunday dinner at my parents' house. She swept in with a bottle of wine I'd never heard of, wearing a dress the color of wet clay and a smile that seemed rehearsed but warm enough to pass for real. She had this way of looking at you, like she was memorizing your face, deciding where you fit in a puzzle she'd already solved. Her handshake was soft but lingered just a beat too long, her thumb brushing my knuckles like we were in on a secret I didn't know yet. That night, I told Marianne, "She's different." She raised an eyebrow. "Different good or different bad?" I shrugged. "Different intriguing." The first off moment came a few weeks later. We were all at Mom and Dad's for a barbecue. The smell of charred chicken wings and Dad's too salty potato salad filled the air. Mark was at the grill, and Dana was at the picnic table, flipping through photos on her phone. When she saw me, she smiled. "Andrea, you're so brave to wear bright colors." I could never pull that off. Her tone was honey, but something in my stomach tightened. The way she said brave felt less like a compliment and more like a dare. Later, when I mentioned a big project I'd just landed at work, she tilted her head, smiling as she said, "That's great. But you must be exhausted. You know, men prefer women who have time for the home." She laughed like it was a harmless joke, and I forced a laugh back. But as I drove home, her words replayed in my head like a song you don't like but can't turn off. Still, I told myself I was reading too much into it. She was new. She was just finding her place. Dana had a way of making herself the center of Mark's world without ever raising her voice. If he went out with friends, she'd text him 3-4 times an hour. "Miss you already? What are you talking about?" If he came to lunch with me, she'd call mid-meal. I'd watch his face soften as he answered, his posture folding inward like a man returning to the dock. He started turning down invites. "Dana's not feeling great," he'd say. Dana had a rough day at work. It wasn't that he didn't want to come, it was that she had become the deciding factor in whether he could. At family dinners, she'd slide her hand into his and keep it there the whole night, her thumb stroking his palm in slow, deliberate circles. It looked affectionate. But it felt like a quiet claim. "He's mine. I'm here." Nora had been in Mark's life since middle school. They'd been in band together. Mark on trumpet, Nora on clarinet. I always thought of her as part of our extended family. She had a quick wit, a loud laugh, and the kind of loyalty you could feel in your bones. She married Sam about 5 years ago. He was nice enough, a little quiet, a little too into his fantasy football league, but solid. The 4 of them, Mark, Dana, Nora, and Sam, started doing game nights. I thought it was a good thing. I thought Dana was finally integrating. I was wrong. The first time I saw the shift, we were at one of those game nights. The smell of pepperoni pizza mingled with the faint tang of beer. Dana and Sam were sitting side by side, laughing over a card in Cards Against Humanity. Her hand was on his arm, casual, almost forgettable. But when she laughed, she leaned in so close her hair brushed his cheek. It didn't stop there. She started confiding in Sam, little things at first. "Mark's so stubborn sometimes. I just wish he was more romantic." Then bigger. "I don't feel seen. You know what I mean, Sam?" He always nodded. He always listened. One Tuesday evening, Nora showed up at my apartment. It was raining. That heavy, soaking kind that makes your clothes stick to you and your hair flatten to your head. Her eyes were red, and she clutched a crumpled grocery bag like she'd just grabbed the first thing to shield herself from the weather. "Can we talk?" she asked, voice trembling. I made tea. We sat at my kitchen table, steam curling between us. "She's been talking to Sam," Nora said. I frowned. "Dana?" Nora nodded, eyes glistening. "Not just talking. She's telling him things, about Mark, about your family. She says she's lonely, that Mark doesn't understand her. And Sam. She took a shaky breath. He likes the attention. The words hit me like a stone in the gut. I wanted to say, that's ridiculous. But I'd seen the way Dana leaned in. I'd seen the way she measured her pauses, like she was leaving space for someone to step closer. It happened in the most ordinary setting possible. The kind of afternoon you think you'll forget until something burns it into you. Mark had invited a few friends over for a backyard barbecue, the kind where people drift between the grill and the kitchen, sipping from sweating cans of beer and balancing paper plates. The air was thick with the smell of charcoal and sizzling meat. Children ran in erratic patterns, shrieking over a game of tag, their feet kicking up little clouds of dry grass. Music, classic rock, played low from a Bluetooth speaker on the deck. I was inside, refilling the ice bucket, when I caught sight of them through the sliding glass door. Dana and Sam were standing near the corner of the house, just far enough from the crowd to be unnoticed. She had her hand on his chest, her face tilted up toward his. And then, quick, almost casual, she kissed him. Not a peck, not friendly. A slow, deliberate press of her mouth to his. I froze, ice scoop in hand, my brain scrambling to label it wrong. Maybe it's a European cheek kiss. Maybe she tripped and... But I knew. It was intimate. It was claiming. Before I could move, they stepped apart. Dana smoothed her hair, laughed at something only she heard, and walked back into the crowd, blending into the afternoon like a drop of ink in water. I told myself I'd talk to Mark. But how do you walk up to your brother and say, "Hey, I think your wife is seducing your best friend's husband"? I didn't want to sound like the jealous sister. And a part of me, the stupid part, still wanted to believe it was a misunderstanding. A week later, Nora called me. Her voice was flat, like someone had turned the color down on it. "Sam admitted it," she said. "He said Dana kissed him." She told him Mark is emotionally unavailable. My heart clenched. What did Mark say? He believes her when she says it was a joke. A joke. Nora let out a bitter laugh. "I'm filing for divorce." The words sat heavy between us. I wanted to apologize, but for what? For not stopping it? For letting her into our family in the first place? After Nora moved out, Dana's presence grew even bigger. She came to every gathering, even the ones Mark didn't, dropping in with a casserole or a bottle of wine, just to see everyone. If I brought up Nora, she'd tilt her head and sigh. I wish she could have been stronger. Marriage is hard work. She said it like she was the authority on loyalty. Mark stopped seeing his old friends. He said it was too awkward, too much drama. But I think it was because Dana wanted him to herself, his entire social life curated by her. It was Marianne who pointed it out. We were cleaning up after Christmas dinner, stacking plates, scraping leftovers into containers, when she said quietly, "Do you ever feel like Dana doesn't want anyone to be happy unless she's the reason?" I glanced at her. "What do you mean?" She got in between Mark and Nora's friendship. Now Nora's divorced. And every time you talk about something good in your life, she finds a way to, I don't know, poke at it. I wanted to argue, but instead I found myself remembering all the little comments, the way she'd smile when someone else's plans fell through. And for the first time, I saw the outline of something darker than just passive aggression. For a while, Dana's focus stayed on Mark. They bought a bigger house, took trips she never invited the rest of us on, and posted carefully curated photos that looked like they belonged in a glossy magazine. She still dropped her little comments, but they felt more like background noise now. The hum of an appliance you forget to notice until it breaks. I thought maybe the storm had passed. It hadn't. It was just circling, waiting for a new target. And that target was me. 2 years after the Nora fallout, I met Ryan. It was at a charity 5K I had signed up for on a whim after one too many glasses of wine with Marianne. I hadn't trained, I hadn't even brought the right shoes, but Ryan was in my pace group and slowed down when he saw me struggling. "Not a runner?" he teased, jogging just enough to keep the conversation casual. "Not even close," I admitted, breathless. "Then let's walk." Nobody's timing us. He was warm in the way that's hard to fake. The kind of warmth that makes you believe you could set your burdens down for a while and they'd be safe with him. We dated for a year before he proposed. It felt right. Safe. Solid. We kept it small. Backyard ceremony, white twinkle lights strung through the oak trees, tables covered in mismatched lace tablecloths I'd borrowed from friends. The air smelled like rosemary and grilled vegetables, and the sound of our friends laughing mixed with the cicadas in the trees. Dana arrived in a silky emerald dress that seemed to hum under the lights. She hugged Ryan first, long enough that I noticed his eyebrows twitch in that way men do when they're not sure how to politely break away. She smiled at me next, all teeth. "You look stunning, Andrea." I almost wore that same shade of lipstick. Guess it's a good thing I didn't, huh? I laughed politely, because it was my wedding day and I wanted to remember it without cracks. But even in that moment, I caught Marianne watching us from across the lawn, her face pinched. The jab started almost immediately after the wedding. At a family barbecue, I was inside making potato salad when I heard Dana's voice through the open window. "You're so patient, Ryan. I don't know how you do it. Andrea's always so intense. Must be exhausting sometimes." Her tone was light, but the words had weight. I froze, spoon hovering over the bowl. Ryan chuckled, polite, nervous, and said something I couldn't hear. When I asked him later, he brushed it off. "She's just kidding. Don't take it personally." But it kept happening. At gatherings, Dana started standing close to Ryan. Too close. She'd put a hand on his arm when she laughed, lean in to whisper jokes that didn't include me. She tagged him in memes about long-suffering husbands and how to survive marriage. Always in public, always with a wink. One Thanksgiving, she poured him a glass of wine and said, "Careful, Ryan. Too much of this and you might tell Andrea what you really think." Everyone laughed. Everyone but me. My stomach knotted, but I smiled because the room was full and I wasn't about to give her the scene she wanted. Ryan started mentioning little things Dana had suggested. "She thinks we should take more weekend trips, without family. She says you work too much." Maybe she's right. It was the same pattern I'd seen with Sam. Only now I was the subject of the confidences. When I pointed it out, Ryan sighed. "Andrea, she's your sister-in-law. She's just making conversation." But the way he said it told me he'd already started believing some of it. The moment it clicked for me, we were at Mark's birthday dinner. Dana sat between the two of them, me and Ryan, like a hinge holding the table together. Halfway through, she leaned toward him, laughing at something, and her hand stayed on his knee a fraction of a second too long. I looked at her, and she looked right back at me. Her smile didn't falter. Her eyes said, "Try me," and I knew. I was in the same trap Nora had been in. Only this time, Dana wasn't just looking to stir trouble, she wanted to burn the whole thing down. It was one of those unremarkable weeknights where you think nothing can happen because nothing's supposed to. The air in our apartment was heavy with the smell of leftover garlic pasta. The TV was on but muted. Ryan scrolling his phone, me on the couch with my laptop, both of us locked in our own little rectangles of light. Around 8:30, I asked if he wanted dessert. "Sure," he said without looking up. Surprised me. I went to order something from the bakery down the street. His phone was closer, unlocked, screen glowing. I reached for it without thinking. A notification popped up before my hand even closed around it. From Dana. "You're the kind of hand someone should wake up to." It took me a moment to understand the sentence. The words registered, but their meaning lagged like bad audio. When it clicked, my pulse jumped so fast I felt dizzy. I knew I shouldn't. I knew the right thing to do was wait, ask him directly. But my hands moved before my brain could debate. The thread went back months. Photos of Dana, not nudes, but intimate. Her in the passenger seat of his car, hair blowing in the wind. Her wearing my kitchen apron, flour dusting her fingers. Her lips painted deep red, captioned, "This is your color." His replies were light, careful, but not rejecting. "Ha ha ha, you're ridiculous. Don't tempt me." And the one that made my chest ache, "You're trouble." When I came back into the living room, I was holding the phone like it might burn me. "What is this?" My voice was low, but it trembled. Ryan looked up, confusion sliding into panic as he saw the screen. "It's just flirting," he said quickly. "It doesn't mean anything." "Just flirting?" My voice cracked. "She's my brother's wife, Ryan." He raked a hand through his hair. "You're overreacting. It's harmless. Did you sleep with her?" The question felt like swallowing glass. He hesitated, just long enough for the silence to answer for him. He packed a bag that night. No yelling, no plates thrown, just the soft sound of zippers and drawers. He left a note on the counter. "I'm staying with Dana. We need space to figure this out." The words blurred in my vision, the ink swimming. Outside, the city went on. Cars hissing through wet streets, someone laughing too loud a block away, like nothing had shifted. Inside, the air was so still I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. The days after were a fog. I moved through them like someone underwater, sounds muffled, colors muted. The apartment felt wrong, the couch too big, the bed too cold. Mark called me 3 days later. "Ryan's an idiot," he said. "But Dana, she's complicated." Complicated? I almost laughed. "She's a wrecking ball." There was a pause. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I'm starting to see that." A month later, he filed for divorce. I learned quickly that the worst part of heartbreak isn't the crying, it's the quiet. After Ryan left, I woke up to silence so complete it felt like it had weight. No clink of his coffee mug. No sound of him humming tunelessly while he shaved. Just the hum of the fridge and the occasional groan of the building settling. Marianne stayed with me for a week. She filled the space with noise, the blender whirring in the morning, sitcoms playing in the background, her voice telling me stories about her students and their ridiculous excuses for late homework. When she left, I kept the TV on low just to have a voice in the room. I started small. New throw pillows for the couch. A different duvet cover. Soft gray, not the navy one Ryan had picked out. I moved the mugs in the kitchen so his favorite wasn't the first I saw every morning. Some days I still found Dana's fingerprints in my life. A bottle of wine she'd brought to dinner. A photo from a barbecue where she was in the background, smiling that calculated smile. I threw them out, one by one. 2 years later, I met Samuel. We bumped into each other, literally, at the farmer's market. I spilled coffee on his sleeve. He laughed, handed me a napkin, and insisted on buying me another cup. He was calm in a way that made me feel steady just being near him. We dated slowly. No rushing, no whirlwind, just steady ground. When he proposed a year later, it felt less like a leap and more like stepping onto a solid floor. I didn't invite Dana to the wedding. Mark had already divorced her and remarried a kind woman named Elise who fit into our family like she'd been there all along. But Dana found her way back in. The first time I saw her again was at a holiday dinner. She showed up with a tin of cookies for the family, uninvited, all smiles. She hugged Samuel too long, her perfume lingering on his shirt. Over the next few months, she reappeared in little ways. A friendly comment on one of his social media posts. "You've got great taste, in everything." A casual suggestion at a family gathering. "You and Samuel should take more trips without Andrea. You know, keep the mystery alive." It started the same way it had with Ryan, tiny seeds. "She says you work too much," Samuel mentioned one night. "Maybe she's right." I froze. "She's talking to you about me?" He shrugged. "Just in passing." The passing got heavier. Dana began texting him late at night with relationship advice articles. When I confronted her, she smiled. "I'm just looking out for him. For you. Don't be so sensitive." One evening, Samuel came home quiet. "She told me you talk about me behind my back," he said. The words felt like a slap. That's not true. But the damage was done. The way he looked at me had changed. A crack where trust used to be. 3 months later, he moved out for space. We never got that space back. It's been over a year since Samuel left. I live alone now, in a small, light-filled townhouse on the edge of the city. The walls are painted soft, calming colors. Pale sage in the living room, warm cream in the kitchen. The only photos on the walls are of people who want to be there. I blocked Dana on everything. There was no big fight, no dramatic goodbye, just a closing of the door. Mark understands. Marianne understands. Even Elise, Mark's new wife, gave me a quiet nod the first time we saw each other after I made the decision. Like she knew exactly why. I haven't seen Dana in person since the night I told myself I was done. And maybe she's still somewhere, circling someone else's life, looking for the hairline cracks. But I'm not in her orbit anymore. My mornings are slow. I make coffee in silence, listen to the gurgle of the machine, the faint hiss of steam. I water the plants, all thriving now, and open the windows to let the air in, even in winter. I've learned to enjoy my own company. To take myself to movies. To eat at restaurants alone without feeling like I need to scroll my phone the whole time. Marianne comes by often. We cook together, the kitchen filled with the sound of onions sizzling and her telling me about her students. Mark and Elise visit on weekends, bringing their baby daughter. All gummy smiles and tiny fists that curl around my finger. Sometimes I wonder if Dana ever felt satisfied after tearing through 2 marriages. If she lies awake at night thinking about the people she's hurt, or if she just rewrites the story in her head until she's the victim. I'll never know. And I don't need to. I used to think closure meant getting answers. Now I know closure is just accepting that some people will keep being storms, no matter how many times they wreck the shore. The lesson wasn't about men, or marriage, or even trust. It was about small cracks. The little jabs, the casual undermining, the just kidding comments, they matter. Because those are the places where the ice gets in. And if you don't seal them, the freeze will split everything apart. Now, I seal my cracks early. If someone crosses a line once, I tell them. If they cross it again, I walk away. I don't have the picture-perfect ending, Dana never faced public consequences. She never apologized. She's probably still telling her version of events somewhere. But I have my peace. I have my family. The ones who want to be here? I have mornings where the only voice in the room is my own, and it's kind. And that, I think, is better than revenge. Because revenge keeps you tethered to the person who hurt you. Peace lets you drift out of their orbit completely. So if anyone reading this is in the early days of meeting their own Dana, listen closely to the small things. The lingering touches. The harmless jokes. The way they smile when someone else's plans fall apart. It's not nothing, it's the blueprint. And you can choose, right now, to step off before they start building.